22.
Service. Couple of notes. It's an unusual service because we have students from 2 years who are participating in the service because last year's class didn't have a service. So we did have a service last year, but it was for the year before who hadn't had a service. So we're catching up. And so there are members of last year's class participating in the service today. There is one, they're going to walk in. You'll see pictures of our confirmands on the screen as they walk in. There is one student who is unable to be here today whose pictures are on the screen and had written her speech and everything, but Avery Hanley's grandmother's partner passed away and they're out with her in Orange County, so she's not here. So she's being confirmed in absentia, and you'll see her picture, and nobody will be walking in at that moment, and that's why. So I'm giving you that up front. And a little thanks ahead of time on the video that we're going to see in a minute. Is that unlocked, Paul? I just want to make sure. Okay.
You're gonna have to come down.
Okay, I'll unlock it in a sec. Put together by Sam Kupitz and Eli Kupitz. So I recruited family labor to put it together. So, so thank you to both of them for their assistance.
are gifts, and we are blessings. We are His story in song. We are hope, and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words, and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. The door vador, nagid goleva. The door vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, the door vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our hearts, from the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part. We are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way, and the words that bring us meaning, we will have the strength to say. The door vador, nagid god lecha. The door vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, the door vador, these lips will praise your name. Door vador, nagid god lecha. The door vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, the door vador, these lips will praise your name.
This is a day that God has created for us to rejoice and to be glad in it. And we're going to, since we don't need the TV for anything else today, we're going to move it off to the side so that it's out of our way. Thank you, Cantor. And we're going to continue in a moment with songs from Psalm 133. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good and beautiful it is for brothers and sisters to be with one another.
You all know the words. Join me. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. As this is certainly a festive celebration, let's clap our hands, same words, little different energy. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, יאללה לי, יאללה לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, יאללה לי, יאללה לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, יאללה לי לי לי, יאללה לה לה לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
You all have prayer books in the pockets in front of you, in your rows. We're going to continue on page 344 with the Shehechianu blessing, which thanks the Holy One of Blessing for giving us life and sustaining us and allowing us to reach this time.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Everybody on amen with me.
One last final opportunity to give praise for this moment. If you turn to page 100 in your books, you'll find Psalm 150, Hallelujah, give praise to the Holy One.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. El Bekodsho, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Birkia Uzo, Hallelujah, 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 Vigorotav, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Kerov, good Lord. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, v'teka shofar. Hallelujah, hallelujah, v'nevel v'chinor. Hallelujah, 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 v'tov umachor. Hallelujah, hallelujah, v'minim ve'udam. Hallelujah, 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 v'tzilzalei shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, v'tzilzalei truah. Kol hanshama tehallelya, kol haneshama tehallelya, kol haneshama tehallelya. Hallelujah, kol haneshama tehallelya. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol hanshama tehallelya, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol hanshama tehallelya, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. I know it's been only 5 years, but hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol hanshama tehallelya, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol hanshama tehallelya, hallelujah, hallelujah.
So to help with transitions throughout the service, students will come up in groups of 2 or 3. One will stand just to the side, one will give their speech, the other will step to the side, the other will give their speech, so that we have less going up and down. So I'm going to invite our first 2 folk up, Emily and Lauren. Slowly and clearly, slowly and clearly. Smile. There you go. Good job.
We are all here today because Judaism means something to each and every one of us. Whether it be the culture, the connection to God, or the community, Judaism has a special meaning to everyone. For me, Judaism is a number of things. Anyone who knows me knew that I could never sit still through the long services. I would always find clever ways to sneak out and help in the kitchen. As I became older, I found the value in the prayers and the reading from the Torah, and I began to actually enjoy the services. This community has motivated me to enjoy the learning process and engage in Judaism. That is what truly connected me to the Jewish culture. As a kid who was half Guatemalan and half American, my mom tried to teach me Spanish, or my grandma would make me traditional food. But since I was too stubborn to learn Spanish or too picky to try the foods, I didn't truly immerse myself in the culture. Now I'm 16, and the only phrase I know is, ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? This realization of how disconnected I am from my Spanish culture made me so thankful that my parents immersed me in Jewish culture. I have always loved the holidays, the food, and the language, and the meaning behind everything in Judaism, and I'm proud to be a part of my Jewish culture. Because the majority of my family lives in Guatemala, I only see them through our weekly phone calls. That is why I am so grateful for my family that I have here. Through our Passover Seders and our at-home Havdalahs, I was able to find my family in the members of this congregation, many who have seen me grow up. In my old temple, everyone of the congregation had watched me grow up, but when I moved temples, I felt disconnected, and it was a little bit of a struggle. And sometimes I felt like I didn't really fit in or belong. But as I spent more time here, I began to love the people of this congregation as well. For me, Judaism is more than the Talmud or the Torah. It's about what we as people of the congregation do to praise and celebrate and love God. And for me, it is through the Jewish culture and the people that I am truly able to connect with God.
Judaism can be interpreted in a lot of ways. It could be a heritage to some people, a religion to others, a lifestyle to yet others. I'm still trying to learn what it is for me exactly. What I do know is I've grown up Jewish. I remember being 3 years old singing the Shema in this very room. Judaism's always been a part of my life, and I grew up in this synagogue with these other people. And here we are now, years later. This community means a lot to me. This Kehillah Kadosha, holy community. Judaism matters to me because of this community. Wherever I go, I know there will always be other Jews. There will always be a community. You're never alone when you're a Jew, and that's helped me through a lot of hard times throughout my life and continues to mean a lot to me. So throughout my Jewish studies, this is more Judaism as a lifestyle, which I also believe is one of the stronger points of Judaism for me. As a lifestyle, 2 phrases in particular throughout my studies have resonated with me. Kol Yisrael ahavim zeh bazeh, roughly translated to, all people are responsible for each other. And Tikkun Olam, repair the world. Those of you who know me, you know wherever I go, I pick up trash when I see it. Did I put the trash there? No. Did I make the trash? No. Do I really have any personal connection to the trash or any reason I need to be the one to pick it up? No, but it's there. Someone put it there. It's better for everyone and the environment, and it would be better if it wasn't there, so I pick it up and I put it away. To me, that is a Jewish ideal, because we are all responsible for each other. Doesn't mean we have to take the blame or hate ourselves for everything all of humanity does, but we need to take responsibility. If everybody turns away and says, someone else did that, not my problem, nothing's going to get better. And there's a lot of problems in the world this time, and between climate change, COVID, the school shooting that happened recently, the world needs repairing. Someone has to step up, and I believe as Jews, it's a good thing that we are taught to step up and repair the world and take responsibility for people, whether it be ourselves or anyone else. That is what Judaism means to me. Take responsibility. We are all responsible for each other, and take care of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you. Thanks to both of you for sharing so beautifully. And we are now going to open our prayer books to page 26 for Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei.
בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב
Veimeru. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbam Mivorach. Le'olam u'l'olmei almaya. Yitbarach. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach. Ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnasei. Ve'yithadar ve'yitaleh. Ve'yithalal. Shemei dekudesha berichu. Le'ela min kol birchata. V'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma ve'imeru. Amen.
Baruchu, our call to prayer, page 28. I invite everybody who's able to do so to please rise.
Lai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam va'ed.
Last three lines in the Hebrew on page 30, El Chai V'Kayam.
El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim.
We affirm the interconnectedness of all things to the Holy One, to each other. Shema Yisrael, page 34 and 35.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
You may be seated. Continue on page 36 with Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi Metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'libarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letodafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem,
Emet.
I'd like to invite to share their thoughts Jacob Budner and Lena Shapiro. Oh, wait, hold on. Wrong people. I skipped. Oren and Madison. The kids are correcting me, the teens. That's good. They keep me honest. Oren and Madison, you're up next. Go for it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Oren Kaufman. As all of you probably know, I'm a sophomore at Claremont High School, soon to be a junior as the year closes. Judaism has been a part of my life since I can remember. My father's an Israeli immigrant, and he's practiced ever since his childhood. My mother was born in Pomona, and she converted to Judaism. She was one of the most important people in my life, and my family and I dearly miss her. She was the biggest supporter of my father in everything, and she was the one that always stayed and always motivated me to do my bar mitzvah studies when my father was busy. My father was always taking me to Temple and teaching me the proper way to speak Hebrew. Specifically, I remember he always taught me how to read the calendar in Hebrew. Later on, he taught me the history of Judaism and the history of Israel specifically, and he helped me with really anything related to history. As a child, I always felt like I was different because I was Jewish. I always thought of myself as, like that one kid when Christmas came around and everybody was writing their letters to Santa. During Easter, I remember that my dad wouldn't let me go out for egg hunts. And at that time, I hated him because of it, because I didn't care about religion. But as I got older, I soon learned that there was a reason why, and I apologized to him very much. I just wanted to fit in with the rest of the kids during this time. This was all in elementary school, but I still remember how all of that would change when I got to TBI. For some background, I've been going to TBI since I was about 3 years old. Every day, we'd learn something about Jewish culture, and then we would talk to the rabbi. My dad would occasionally come into my classrooms to teach us Hebrew. Even when we ate at snack time, we would still practice Hebrew. We never failed to indulge ourselves in Hebrew in some way, shape, or form. When I was about bar mitzvah age, I started to comprehend how Judaism has shaped my life. It helped shape who I am today by giving me a chance to grow and learn from God. Through practicing Judaism, I gained a lot of patience that I didn't have as a child, and many more attributes as well. I learned how to relate to people on a spiritual level, and I became a wiser person. But the biggest way that it's affected me was by giving me a community. It gave me a home away from home. A place where I could put all of my problems aside and calm down, even during tefillah. And because of this, during tefillah sometimes I would try to truly be in tune with God because I felt sometimes that God was the only one there for me. When I was sad, I looked up to God. When I'm happy, I would thank God. Judaism has been a part of my life by giving me a reason to question life and its morals. Judaism has become a part of my identity, and nothing can change that. Thank you.
Hey everybody. So Rabbi Kupitz, when I was planning this, he asked me to share my thoughts tonight on what it means to be a Jewish woman. Seemingly at the beginning, this was a really tough topic to respond to in relation to my experiences since my bat mitzvah and in relation to my life today. This was indeed, honestly, a really complicated question to answer. And even in the beginning, I felt as if I had no answers. But then I thought to the beginning. My childhood, I grew up here, and like everybody else said, I have truly found community here. I felt safe. I felt as if I belonged. And so I thought even more about the more serious parts of our identity as being Jewish people. The Diary of Anne Frank, a book I read when I was in 7th grade. This was an all too familiar story I've heard many times. A few days ago, I reflected on Anne Frank and realized that when she wrote her last entries in her diary, when she was captured, she was my age today. In her final entries, 15-year-old Anne Frank looked critically back at the 13-year-old girl that she had been when she and her family went into hiding. And then it struck me. This all too familiar story became all too relevant for me. What did it mean for Anne Frank to be a Jewish woman in 1944? What did it mean to be persecuted for who you are, for being a Jewish person? My bat mitzvah was in December 2019, and I had no realization then that the following months would be a time of turbulence and confusion. In early 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic began. We were confined to our homes, millions of people lost their jobs, and many lost their lives. We were resorted to interface with our friends and family only virtually. People were watching the comfort and familiarity of their homes and their past lives collapse before their very eyes. It was tough being stuck at home, especially being a teenager. We all felt stress, anger, anxiety. On top of all this, we also experienced turmoil, as some of our rights as members of the Jewish community were challenged. But now, in 2022, in retrospect, the COVID-19 was a blessing after all. No. Hear me out. Society was forced into a grinding halt, megacorporations were brought to their knees, businesses faced elimination, families were sequestered with each other at home, but, it made us realize what's important and what is not. The fast lane became irrelevant, and what mattered were people, each other, our community. We learned to speak up, we learned to protest, we learned to uphold others as we upheld our fundamental beliefs. This became a time of action. And that's what's resonated to me so much as a Jewish woman, that us as a Jewish community, we are so strong despite all of the challenges we've faced throughout our history. It's kept me going, and it's kept everybody else going. Fear was prevalent in the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, but we overcame it together. Being with loved ones, support for others, that's what got us through. The years after my bat mitzvah were really tough, but it made lasting and positive changes in our hearts. By no means can the Holocaust ever compare to anything in our entire history, but thinking back about Anne Frank, what does it mean to be a Jew? Being a Jew, you will be persecuted sometimes, even hated. There will especially be hard times, but we have to remember that we have to be who we are no matter what. Make our family, community central to our life, care for people, face our fears, and take action for what is right, always. Find strength and carry on. Thank you.
Thank you to Oren and Madison. And now, because I had accidentally skipped them before, and we put them in here, I'm going to invite up our other two speakers, Jacob Budner and Lena Shapiro.
My identity as a Jewish person connects me to a long history of people who are determined to survive and make the best of their lives and community despite forces of oppression coming in from all angles. I feel a sense of an expectation to contribute to the world and make the most of what my ancestors have given me. I feel very strongly that there is a lot of work to be done to improve this world, and that comes with many of the values that I learned as a result of my Jewishness. One example of this is the idea of tikkun olam, something that literally translates to world repair. This idea is very present in Jewish culture, and it seems to be the leading force in many of the programs we work towards. At this temple, specifically, we have contributed to this goal by hosting a massive food drive every year. As Americans, we all share a small role in the issues of the world as a result of our tendency to overuse and overbuy. Because of this, I hope to work to give back what I have taken. All the things that I take for granted have a price tag that will be paid by people across the world from me. I don't want to be okay with that. I want to improve the world. We must come together and work to solve these issues as much as we can, and I think that the Jewish community is a perfect way of doing that.
Why doesn't Santa come to our house? Is a question I asked my dad after preschool. He said something like we were Jewish and did not believe in Santa. That answer wasn't good enough, so when I asked my mom, she told me Santa was not real. The next day, the kids were still excited about what Santa had brought them, so I told them all that Santa was fake. I got pulled aside and yelled at by the teacher, but from then, I noticed I was brought up with different beliefs compared to the majority. During my first few years at Beit Sefer, I believed that learning the Hebrew alphabet and how to chant prayers was all there was to Judaism. As I grew up, I found that there is much more to my Jewish identity and discovered reasons as to why I identify as a Jew. However, there have been conflicts when I mention that I'm Jewish to a friend. It usually ends up with like a puzzled look and sometimes a "you don't look Jewish." Other times, when my peers are anti-Semitic, like offering me pennies, I see it as validating my Jewish identity. But throughout all of it, and having friends of other religions and learning about their beliefs, my heart still clings to Judaism, and here's why. My outlook on Judaism changed as I matured, which was early since I came to the adult Shabbat services every Friday night when I was little instead of the family ones. So during the oneg, I sat with my parents, listening to them talk to adult people, and despite not understanding what the prayers meant and falling asleep on my parents' lap, I liked eating the brownies and seeing the people that my parents knew. And they knew me, since I was like this high, apparently. But most importantly, I never received a puzzled look, and every face was friendly, and the people I saw every Friday night, I saw them more than most of my relatives. They were more than a congregation, more than a community. I felt them to be like my family. For the way they care about my mom and for the way they celebrated alongside me at my bat mitzvah, I felt connected with the Jewish community through prayer on Shabbat evenings and support during life's liminal moments. On the way up to Camp Newman in 2016, my parents and I stopped at a synagogue in Reno to observe Shabbat. It did not feel irregular despite the new faces. We were still welcomed and invited to join. Without a personal connection to these people, I still felt united because we each had something in common, a Jewish connection with God. I am truly grateful to have been brought up to experience these connections and look forward to more as I grow up and find myself in a place where I don't know anyone. I have learned that as a follower of Judaism, our purpose is to make God's presence felt by forming a community. If that is accomplished, then the community will always be there through bitter and sweet when one needs it the most. I know that if I ever find myself lost or lonely, I can go to a Shabbat service to feel welcomed and at home. As much as I don't look Jewish, I cannot deny my Jewish identity just as much as I cannot deny being Chinese, female, or myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you, Jacob. So today was, or I might say is, because the way it gets dark so late, it's not really dark yet, Shavuot. Shavuot comes 50 days after Passover, right? We count each evening the Omer, starting the second night of Pesach, the second night of Passover, and we ended on Friday night, was 49. And then Saturday night was 50. And there's this journey. And this is a journey from freedom at Pesach to covenant, responsibility, even words we don't like to use like obligation, things like that sometimes feel a little heavy, but most of the most deep and important things in our lives, certainly the deepest relationships in our lives, come with lots of obligations that are connected to them that give us meaning in our lives. And so it is that confirmation, Kabbalat Torah, which is what we call our class, the receiving of Torah, and that's what Shavuot is really all about, takes place not always at TBI on Shavuot, but near Shavuot, because each of them is really talking about what it is for them to stand metaphorically at Sinai, what it is for them to be inheritors of the Jewish tradition. And it's also a reminder that with freedom and with so many blessings that we have in our lives comes commitment and responsibility. And we've heard a lot of that already from students today, and they understand their responsibilities to the world. And so as we go Micha Mocha, it's our song of freedom. And I'm framing it this way because Michamocha, we leave Egypt, but we're freed for a purpose, right? And that's this period of time reminds us, the holiday Shavuot actually comes from the word, it means weeks. Because we only know when it comes because it's 7 weeks after Pesach, right? We have this, it's weeks because we're freed. We're freed so that we can enter into a relationship, so that we can help to shape the world for the better. Micha Mocha, our Song of Freedom, page 40.
Could I ask someone kindly to check and see who's at the door, please? Thanks, Lord. Yaban bim bimbai, yaban bimbai, yaban bimbai, yaban bimbai. Ay 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 ay, yaban bimbai. Ay 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 ay, yaban bimbai. Mi chamocha, bailim Adonai. Mi chamocha, medar bakodesh. No rati Lord, oh say fella. No rati Lord, oh say fella. Yabam bim bimbai, yabam bimbai, yabam bim bimbai, yabam bimbai. Ay 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 ay, yabam bimbai. Ay 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 ay, yabam bimbai. Mahalechutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei ayam livnei Moshe uMiriam. Ze'eli anu ve'ameru Adonai imloch ve'lam. Vayri yabam bim bimbai, yabam bim bimbai, yabam bim bimbai, yabam bim bimbai. Ay 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 ay, yabam bim bimbai. Ay 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 ay. Yababai,
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 yai bye bye, yai bye bye, bye.
bye.
How low can you go? Bye. ונאמר כיפת אדוני אל יעקב, וגאלו ביד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני,
Baruch Shemo.
גאל Yisrael.
Going to invite Jacob, number 2, Jacob Tui, and Shelby and Sophie to come on up.
Throughout my life, being Jewish has had many impacts on me. Family has been the most crucial aspect of my Jewish identity. I have been inspired and influenced by my parents, sister, uncle, and the idea of providing the same Jewish environment to my own family one day. First, my uncle and extended family have greatly influenced me. My family and I visited Pennsylvania on several occasions to visit my great-uncle Stanley and our cousins. Growing up, it was important to me to spend time at events like Seder's and Shabbat services with my uncle. In 2019, the year my bar mitzvah was held, I can still remember the proud look on his face as I stood on the bima. Spending time with him was very important to me because he would tell me stories and share the wisdom that he learned throughout his life, and I took all of his stories to heart. A lot of these Jewish traditions that we participated in together were a strong point in our relationship. My Uncle Stanley established many of our family's traditions that will carry on even though he is no longer with us. Next, seeing my sister gave me a strong example of Jewish identity. Growing up, I have always looked at my older sister Grace as a role model, from wanting the same toys as her to trying to follow in her footsteps academically and also her Jewish example. Seeing how hard she worked to learn her Torah portion and stay focused inspired me to do the same for myself. Also, my parents gave me many opportunities for Jewish connections that I have made throughout my life. It influenced me. like camp and coming here and meeting many of my friends. At the age of 3, I was put in the TBI preschool, where I made many of my lifelong friends and learned the basics of school and Jewish traditions. TBI provided me with a safe place to be Jewish where I didn't have to feel like an outlier. Later, Beit Sefer classes taught me how to read Hebrew so that I would be able to stand in front of my own community and have a bar mitzvah. As I continue to grow older, I hope to continue to find opportunities to connect with the Jewish community. I am thankful for the opportunities my sister, parents, uncle, and friends provided me to connect with Jewish traditions in life. I hope to provide the same experiences to my own family one day. Thank you.
Hi. So, from the time I was 3 years old, my parents have immersed me in Judaism. It's okay. Okay. From the time I was 3 years old, my parents have immersed me in Judaism. I was the Shabbat princess who performed the Hamotzi to our minyan, and I was the only child of the group, and on spring breaks, I would get to spend a day or two in one of their care while my parents were at work. Every year on the Friday before my birthday, Every year on the Friday before my birthday, we would hold a Shabbat dinner with them, and I would get to spend my birthday with people I considered family and also my extended family. That group was my introduction into the world of Judaism. These wonderful people who cared for me when I lost my grandparents, bought me gifts, and taught me interesting life skills like horseback riding and how to ice skate were the best introduction I could have asked for. They taught me my basic Jewish education, which fueled my love for Judaism. They taught me more than just what to do in services. For instance, every year my mother and I would accompany the women in their quest for Passover foods. I can remember year after year walking through the tight aisles looking into a whole new world, buying my favorite Passover foods and treats. These shopping sprees deep in the heart of LA, past all the hustle of city life, were an experience to last a lifetime. Something I would teach my children and spread to my non-Jewish friends. It was something that I will never forget. When I was in 3rd grade, I became part of the Temple here in Pomona. I made my first Jewish friends, and I created strong bonds with teachers and learned from Rabbi Cantor and other teachers all about Judaism and the history and many practices. On the first day, we learned how to say the Ve'ahavta, and I sat right over there in the 3rd row, and it's a prayer I've never forgotten, and it's one of my favorites. And I say it when I'm in a stressful game of water polo or when I'm nervous, or sometimes I just recite it to make sure I can remember it. This temple has had such a large impact on my life. When my grandma was dying, our rabbi and cantor sat with us at the hospital and comforted us. Her death rocked my lifeboat, but Judaism was always there to keep my sea steady. When I was 12, I started my bat mitzvah journey with the cantor every Tuesday. We met for a year to study my Torah portion and discuss my bat mitzvah service. This was a profound Jewish experience in my life, and I got to celebrate an amazing achievement with my friends and family. I also had the opportunity to honor my grandma and have her as a bat mitzvah twin, which is an amazing tradition we have here. Throughout my life, I will always look back on that day with a smile on my face. It was an event that brought me deeper into the world of Judaism, and for the people who helped me, I am forever grateful. I was also fortunate enough to get to meet with the rabbi and my friends over Zoom through COVID to go through the confirmation class, and he made the experience enjoyable even though it was over Zoom, and my friend was there for every single one of them, even though she was behind the scenes. All in all, the opportunities that Judaism has given me continues to give me reassures me that the Jewish community will be by my side forever. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Obviously, I'm here because I have something in common with most of you, and that's being Jewish. Being Jewish has allowed me to connect with many strangers or even become closer with my immediate or extended family. Traditions in Judaism, like becoming B'nai Mitzvah, or traditions with my family, like watching Friday night services or celebrating Passover together, have strongly impacted my life and shaped my Jewish identity into a large part of who I am today. Around the start of 7th grade, many of my TBI classmates began the challenging journey of studying for their B'nai Mitzvahs. I knew that I would follow in the tradition of my B'nai Mitzvah too, but mine would be different. I did a joint B'nai Mitzvah with my cousin Allie in a temple in San Diego. We studied together many nights through FaceTime or some other way, and we would practice the different melodies they did at their temple. It was fun. But I feel like practicing together brought me and Allie closer on a Jewish level, even when we studied at the dorms in Camp Newman, because we had something in common. Overall, the unique Benot Mitzvah experience influenced me through the knowledge that if I could succeed with the support of my family, then I'll be able to continue to follow the Jewish traditions. Having lots of family attend B'nai Mitzvah ceremonies also showed me that my family will be there to support each other as we learn and grow and choose to follow their beliefs. Even small traditions that have inspired me to continue down the Jewish path of life were watching Friday night services either in person or on Zoom, and it would always be with my family. Watching them with my family, even in the living room, allowed us to bond over Judaism as we chanted the prayers together with either rabbi or cantor or whoever was leading services. After services, me and my sister would sometimes go in my room, and I would help her practice melodies that she wasn't familiar with as she studies for her own upcoming bat mitzvah. As a family, I feel like attending the Shabbat services in any way formed unique bonds because we're all Jewish and want to continue being Jewish. The other big family tradition that stuck with me and shaped who I am would be celebrating Passover with my extended family, especially at my cousin Allie's house. Some of my favorite Passover memories include my Uncle Matt leading services and reading in funny voices, or ending service early because we were all hungry and we wanted to eat dinner. And then afterwards eating my mom's chocolate-covered matzah, which is great. And then all these little happy memories and many more have enriched my Jewish experience. Basically, as Tevye wisely says in Fiddler on the Roof, without tradition, our lives would be as shaky as a fiddler on the roof, and because of our traditions, we've kept our balance for many, many years. As the world around me continues to change, the TBI community and my family have allowed me to always fall back on the traditions of the Jewish religion to find stability and support as I learn and grow.
Page 42, Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom. V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim. Ufros aleinu Sukat Shalom Becha, Ufros aleinu Sukat Shalom Becha. Amen. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right, O Adonai. Amen. Amen, amen. Amen, amen. Amen. Everybody now. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom. V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim. Ufros aleinu Sukat Shalom Becha, Ufros aleinu Sukat Shalom Becha. Amen. Amen.
I'd like to invite Stephanie, Naria, and Abby.
Okay. Hi. I've grown up here at TBI throughout the majority of my life. The majority of my childhood was spent here with all these wonderful people, including the two best friends that I met in preschool and I'm still close with to this day. It's safe to say that TBI holds a special place in my heart, and therefore Judaism is a big part of my identity as a person. However, as much as I'm very proud and grateful for this piece of my identity now, throughout my life it has also ensued as a challenge. Growing up, it was hard for me to accept the fact that I was the black sheep of everybody at school. I was confused as to why my family did things differently than everyone else's. Why did we put a menorah in our house instead of a Christmas tree? Why did we search for an afikoman instead of Easter eggs? I hardly knew anybody else that was Jewish, besides the kids that went to TBI. Something that confused me even more was the fact that I was a witness to my older brother getting bullied in high school solely for being Jewish. It got to the point where certain people would be so offensive and commit acts of pure hatred towards him. At the time, I just didn't understand why my culture and my identity of being Jewish poses such a bad thing. Why is being Jewish such a problem to others, I thought. I feared that if I ever tried to explain to people how I did things a little bit differently than them, just because I was of a different religion, that I would be looked at as weird or I wouldn't fit in with the rest of my classmates at school. Being different was the last thing I wanted at the time, so therefore I didn't embrace my Jewish culture as much when I was younger. However, as I've grown older and matured, I realized that being raised Jewish and learning about my culture has actually been so much deeper, richer, and intellectually enticing than what I thought. With my grandpa going to 2 different Israeli wars and my grandma being a Hebrew teacher, I've learned so much wisdom from them both. Then I've learned to embrace and love the religion that I was born with. Going to Hebrew school at TBI every Sunday taught me so much. I discovered the real reasons behind every prayer and holiday, how to read Hebrew, and so much more. As I'm finishing up my 10th grade year, I can happily say I'm very proud of my culture and religion, and I'm planning to embrace it and keep up my Jewish education for as long as I can. 12 years, over half my life, has gone by so quickly, and I'm so grateful to have TBI been such a big part of my life. I'd like to thank Cantor Paul and Rabbi Kupis for everything they've done for me at TBI throughout my life. I'd also like to thank my mom and dad for making me come to Beit Sefer every Sunday, even when I really didn't want to, because now I'm really glad I did. Although my dad was born Jewish and my mom converted, they've both been very supportive in my Jewish journey. I'd also like to thank my siblings for being my main Jewish role models, because a few years back they were both up here doing the exact same thing as me, and I'm the last one. Finally, I'd like to thank my classmates for making this Jewish community amazing, and I've known most of you guys for basically my whole life, and I'm glad you're still in it. We've all worked so hard these past few years to make today happen, and I'm so proud of us. Thank you.
I was born Jewish. I've always felt that even if my family did not practice Judaism, I would still be connected to it. This may be my years of growing up in Jewish spaces talking, but I do feel that different lessons and beliefs that I've been taught have influenced how I view the world. My approach to various aspects of life is very different from some of my friends, and I do think that it is fundamentally because of the Jewish values that have been instilled within me since such a young age. For as long as I can remember, Temple Beth Israel has been my second home. The formative years of my life were spent here, and my earliest memories and friends were made here. Even after leaving the preschool, I spent every Sunday here. I have distinct memories of reading Rabbi Harvey in the library and going shopping for food with my grandmother to fill those Trader Joe's bags. During the one season of the year where I did not attend Sunday school, I went to Camp Newman. There, I made bracelets with my friends, learned how to play the guitar rather poorly, and wore white every Friday evening. After this, I had my bat mitzvah and spent a year studying Hebrew in preparation for it. I had so many different traditions and connections to Judaism because of these experiences. Yet, when all of them physically disappeared, I felt that I had nothing. When the pandemic happened, I chose not to be a madricha virtually. I did not feel that I'd be able to make the same impact that I could have if it was in person. Similarly, I convinced my mom to not make me go to camp. After years of going, I began to dread it. As I made all of these decisions, I felt I was no longer a Jew. I did not have any more physical connections to the religion and felt like an imposter any time I explained to my friends why I did not eat bread for a week in spring. But what I did not realize at the time was that I did not need these physical connections. The way that I processed the world and approached conflicts was inherently Jewish. It never registered to me that the way I coped with all of these overwhelming feelings used teachings of Judaism. Whenever something negative happens to me, I always remind myself that the world is bigger than just me. As I reconnect to Judaism and relearn fundamental teachings, I realize that this is a core aspect. Wisdom is a big part of Judaism, and a main goal to lead a Jewish life is to both look for it and spread it. One slip-up or failing grade does not define who I am. Instead, it is up to me to use the wisdom that I have found through my years of Jewish education and live it in my day-to-day life. Life is vast, and without finding meaning, often feels mundane. So now I choose to use my Judaism to bring meaning to my life and live passionately and fully through it.
Good evening. The last time I stood up here and gave a speech was exactly 3 years ago. I was 13, talking about what made me Jewish and finding my Jewish identity. Flashing to today, I'm now 16 and will be telling you about what makes me Jewish and how I define my Jewish identity. Now, I could stand up here and say that I have figured both of those things out. But the truth is, I have no clue what it means to be Jewish or how I define my Jewish identity. I could talk about how going to Camp Newman every summer completely changed the way I see everything, or how the number 7 ties my Jewish life and my family life together, or how having your rabbi also be your dad makes you pretty Jewish. But while my head was acting as one ginormous circle map, I kept circling back to my bat mitzvah Torah Drosh speech that I wrote back in 2019. I was speaking about the idea that in Judaism, there are ritual blessings for pretty much everything. But the overall point of blessings and rituals is that, and I quote, "There are opportunities every day to recognize the holiness in our world and to be grateful." I couldn't stop thinking about how differently I now view the word grateful since I put it on paper in 2019. I mean, if we're thinking about the events that have occurred between 2019 and 2022, my thought process is pretty valid. Through all the family walks, Zoom meetings, socially distanced hangouts, toilet paper shortages, recipe testing, and masks, lots of masks, I experienced a time that was challenging and full of life changes. Sometimes I believe that it changed me for the better, and sometimes I feel like maybe it made me a little more irritable. But through it all, I found a sense of community. Which brings me to my next point. What is community? If you asked me 3 years ago, I would say that community is being surrounded by the people I love. I would say that I have a loving family community, a supportive TBI community, a bonded camp community, and a wonderful community of friends. And trust me, while all those incredible communities that I am proud to be part of still apply to me today, I feel that I have made a connection with the world that has sparked a new community. Putting our worldwide differences aside, a bond was created during a time where there didn't seem to be a happy ending. Together, there was a shared love for making fluffy coffee, doing quarantine workouts, having to wait in line at Trader Joe's, and most importantly, getting COVID puppies. Community has been the thing that has kept me grounded, or as 2019 Abby would say, community has given me the opportunity to recognize our holiness in the world and to be grateful. So, while I still can't exactly define my Jewish identity, and honestly, who knows if I ever will, I have found that community has been the thing that makes me feel closest to my Jewish self. And honestly, I don't think anything can beat that.
I'm going to turn to page 46 for the beginning of our Amidah, and I ask everybody who's able to please rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips so my mouth may declare your praise.
Page 48.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo V'Ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magid Avraham, Bezrat Sarah.
Page 50.
Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaya kol atah, Rav lehoshia, Morid atah, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato b'shenei afar. Mi chamocha bal gevurot, Umidom elach, Melech meimit u'mechayeh u'matzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah l'hachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol.
Page 52. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Baruch Shemo,
Ha'el HaKadosh.
Amen.
Please take a few moments for silent prayer for the text of your own heart. When you're through, you may be seated.
Oseh shalom bimroma, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. Yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la. Oseh shalom bimroma, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. Ve'imru amen. Ve'imru
Tanner and Leo to come on up.
Hello. Temple Beth Israel has always been a big part of my life, starting with preschool, and it's great that I'm now being confirmed with many of the same friends I knew then. When I asked myself why I wanted to continue my Jewish education after my bar mitzvah, it was because of my love of the Jewish faith and its traditions. Traditions like celebrating Hanukkah at my bubby's house every year. Traditions like having all of our family to our house at Passover. Traditions like lighting Shabbat candles and eating challah on Friday nights. Traditions like helping our community on mitzvah day. I have learned so much along the way, and this Jewish community has helped me learn a lot about values and beliefs, like helping others to make the world a better place. I went to Jewish camp when I was young, and I was able to meet a lot of other young Jewish kids. Being in this environment made me feel safe, participate in team activities, and experience Shabbat and Havdalah in a new way. I went to Sunday school and Wednesday school every week, which taught me the value of commitment. There I learned a lot of stories and ideas Torah teaches that helped me become a better Jewish person. Next was my bar mitzvah. Rabbi and Cantor helped me read Torah when I doubted myself and thought I was not going to be able to do it. I want to thank them for all they have done for me over the years. And finally, I want to thank my family and especially my bubby for always reminding me about my values, traditions, and beliefs, and to always become a better person and connect with Judaism whenever I can. I look forward to staying in this community for as long as I can and to learn more Jewish history and customs along the way. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure. Being a part of the Jewish community was not what I expected it to be. I came into the community after spending a large part of my life attending a non-Jewish school. At this school, I did not feel a sense of community among the school's population, and I did not take in anything from being a part of the community despite being there for so long. Being a part of the Jewish community changed me in ways I would have never expected. Besides being here for such a short time, I feel a sense of community here I would not have felt anywhere else. Here, I learned a lot about being a Jew, which I can categorize in 4 different parts. Learning these 4 categories of Judaism has shaped me into the person I am today, and I am thankful to Rabbi for teaching me about this. The first one being social justice, and how to be fair to other members of society by sharing wealth, opportunities, and privileges which may come. This affected me by making me more conscientious about the well-being of people around me in my life, and making me a kinder person overall. The second aspect of Judaism that affected me is charity, and how it is essential to help others financially and by volunteering. I have spent some of my Sundays for the past year here as a madrich, and this experience has taught me a lot about the importance of helping others. The third aspect is the importance of community. I gained a lot of like-minded friends here at Camp Newman and TBI, and after seeing my family being welcomed into the TBI community, I noticed how much happier it made us being a part of a larger family of people like us. Community is what has kept the Jewish faith alive for the past 4,000 years and will continue to keep us alive as long as we keep our sense of community. The final aspect of Judaism I want to mention today is Israel, the Holy Land of the Jews. Learning about Israel and how important it is for Jews to be able to thrive in this world has made me want to visit it one day. Israel is one of the most historically and culturally significant countries on earth, and I would love to learn more about it in the future. Thank you to Rabbi Kupetz and Cantor Paul for educating me on these topics and for your patience and care.
I'm going to turn to page 282. Look how many pages we're skipping. 282 in the middle of the page for Aleinu L'Shabeach. I'm going to invite you all to rise.
Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol. לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הרצו, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please remain standing. Page 294. Before we enter into Kaddish, our memorial prayer, I think about all the people who came before these people, who have left their imprint, even directly or through the people who left their imprint on you. The Jewish tradition, so many of you talked about different ways in which community or different people in your lives have shaped you. And we remember that there were many who were here before us who helped to build and shape our Jewish community and leave it to us as part of our inheritance. And now it's in your hands to build and shape the Jewish community and to be able to pass it down to another generation. I want to hold for a moment the Saki Handley family, because they're doing the mitzvah of comforting mourners right now, and are being and so are not here, and some are in mourning themselves, and I want to hold that at this moment, and I want to especially invoke Deanna Kaufman. Oren spoke beautifully about his mom at the beginning, and to whom this community was so important, and so to hold her memory and all of the Kaufman family in our embrace, as well as we recite the words of Kaddish and hold in our minds and our hearts all of those who have been part of that chain of tradition, L'dor Vador. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudesha brichu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiram bi'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. You may be seated. If I stand down here, Claudia, can you grab me here? Am I okay if I'm here? All right, thank you. So I want to address a few words to you. That's my left, yes, okay. There we go. Is that okay now? We're good, Claudia? Okay. So I want to address a few words to you who are here. First, you all spoke so beautifully today and really shared parts of yourselves, and really appreciate that in each of you. I know, for me, that it's been really a privilege and a blessing to be able to learn with each of you, and I hope to continue to be able to do that in different ways. None of you have had the opportunity, we haven't had the opportunity to travel together because of COVID, but I hope many of you will travel with me next year when we go to Washington, and who knows, for some of you who are, depending on those who are 10th graders, maybe there'll be something the following year, we'll see, as well. So I look forward to continuing to be able to learn and grow with you and with some of our classmates who aren't able to participate in the service today, particularly for the older class that's here, who has been waiting a while. We didn't celebrate last year, and our class, as Shelby talked about, was all online when we were when it was them, and the perseverance of all of you. I've been I have been seeing you also you've been so remarkable in during this time. I know that the challenges and stresses and changes, having to move back and forth and adapt over and over and over and over and over again, are all things that take their toll. And yet for all of you, some connection to your Jewish life has remained something that's been important. And I hope that for all of you that you'll find that if you can keep that connection, that it actually is an anchor, right? When it's stormy, that it will keep you centered. The other thing is, many of you talked about TBI and the Jewish community. Some of you, I did not do that this week to look, but I'll have to go back to preschool photos and see. Some of you go all the way back. Some of you came later. Some came even later. But you've all been integrated into our temple community. And but I want you to see your temple community not just as a temple community, but as a Jewish community. I think Lena talked beautifully about this in her speech when she talked about going to Reno and still feeling connected to the synagogue there. That it's important that when you leave TBI, you move someplace else, that you don't leave your Jewish connection in Pomona. That it goes with you everywhere you go. That I said to all of you at different times, those who celebrated bat mitzvah here, that as you carried the Torah, that you carry with you Jewish values and traditions and hopes and dreams. Those are all part of you every day. And you carry those wherever you go. But also that to be a Jew is best to be a Jew in community. So when you go find a place, it's scary sometimes to step into a new community, be it on a college campus, be it in a new town, wherever it is, but to take those risks, because to have that anchor is really a great blessing for you to have as you move forward. And lastly, as much as I say, as you go out there, do all of that, know that we are always here, that this is a place where you are loved and you are cared for, and that just because as you grow over the next year or two, depending on what grade you are, and some of you leave home and go to other places, just because you're not here doesn't mean that we're not here for you. We were joking earlier, somebody said, oh, can I call you if this happens? And somebody else said, well, what if I'm in jail? Can I call you if I'm in jail? They were going back and forth. And I said, yeah, either way, like, feel free to call, right? Know that this is a safe place for you, and that you can always reach out and find a listening ear and a caring heart of people in this community who love you and care about you. And lastly, you all, when you walked in at the beginning, you walked into L'Dor Vador, from generation to generation. That was the music that was playing, and we are all links, right, in a chain of tradition. It's not the same. Our Judaism doesn't actually looks very different, put it that way, from probably Judaism in many of our families if we went back a few generations. Okay? It might be, depending on where we lived and what we were doing, it might be more Jewish now, it might be less Jewish now, it might be Reform instead of Orthodox, it might be, maybe you had a secular family, whatever those things are, but it's constantly changing. And each of us stands again at Sinai as we do today. And so that's my other hope for you, is that you'll continue to find new opportunities to grapple, to challenge, to reshape. If Judaism, wherever you are, isn't working for you, don't say, it's not working for me. Instead say, okay, what can I do? How do I reshape the Judaism where I am so that it speaks to me, right? How do I create a community for myself with other people who want the same thing as me, that can nourish me and nourish others and help Judaism to move and continue to provide meaning and purpose to another generation. Mazel tov to you, and I look forward to continuing to be able to learn from you and with you and celebrate with you many accomplishments and wonderful opportunities in the days and years to come. Now I'm going to invite our immediate past president, Dina Benjamin, can I have that mic stand, to come on up. We have confirmation certificates for each of you. There will be a gift for you at some point in the future. Everything's been a little behind. Last year's class just got their gift. So everything's been a little bit behind. I would blame the supply chain, but I don't know that that's really the issue. But I'm going to ask, as you come up, I'll read your name. Dina will give you your certificate, and then I'm going to have you come kind of stand over here and stay up here, because we're going to offer you a final blessing together up here on the bima. All right. As I mentioned to all of you at the beginning, I'm going to read your names in the order that you came in alphabetical order by last name. So please anticipate your name being called, and you can begin to come up so that we can move this forward. So Shelby Archer, Emily Axelrod, Jacob Budner, Tanner Gross, Stephanie Grosswart, Oren Kaufman, Abby Kupitz. Let Oren get his first. Lauren Latz-Priest. Leo Levitin-Shillman. Madison Milikatone. Sophie Rassen. Lena Shapiro. Nuria Spence. And Jacob Toohey. And I'm going to invite all of you to rise. I'm going to invite all of you to turn around, face us. Back up just a little so that they can see. I just want you all in one line instead of squeezing. There you go.
Yevarechecha Adonai Ve'ishmerecha.
May God bless you. May God keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's light shine into you and through you to others. May God always be compassionate unto you.
Yis Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God and all that is good be present for you in your life. May you find wholeness and peace in your heart, in your family, in your community. May you join with others to bring our world closer to wholeness, to peace, and we all say together,
Amen.
So in just a moment, we're going to sing Siman Tov and Mazel Tov. And then, and as we sing, we'll let our confirmands process out in the center aisle. You can get some photos with them if you want. And then we have a dessert oneg. I do after our confirmands that I'll pull the rack back out, but that you hang up your robes before you eat dessert. And then we will have some time to schmooze together. So here we go.
Clapping, please. Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Yeheilanu. Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Yeheilanu.
Mazel Tov.
Thank you all who joined us both here in the sanctuary and virtually. And we wish you a Shavua Tov, a very good week, and see y'all next year, at least for confirmation.